Hey everybody, this is CN Chaos, CN Caden. I just wanted to take this time to talk about someone who was very inspirational to me and someone I literally grew up watching. This week, as in the week I'm recording this, we lost a wrestling legend on Wednesday known as Terry Funk. And that alone is sad, but the more tragic news and the more tragic occurrence that should not have happened was the passing of one of the most creative, innovative, and talented people that the professional wrestling business has ever seen, Bray Wyatt, dead at only 36 due to a heart attack because COVID exacerbated a heart issue. Now, if it isn't already clear, for those who don't know, I am a massive wrestling fan. I grew up watching pro wrestling, WWE, AEW. I love watching. Got into it because of family and friends. So I've been watching pro wrestling for a long time. So I pretty much grew up watching Bray Wyatt his entire, pretty much for a whole decade when he first debuted and up until his tragic passing. I watched and loved watching and being entertained by Bray Wyatt. So I just wanted to take this time and make this video as a tribute and just talk about the great memories that Bray Wyatt, Windham Rotunda, has made for everyone who enjoyed his work. Because by God, there isn't enough words to describe the type of person he was. In the ring, he was obviously, and you'll hear everyone say this, everyone's already been saying this, he's incredibly talented, amazingly creative, innovative, and he would do things in the professional wrestling business that no one would even dare to do because he was that brave and that just innovative. Sorry if I repeat myself, but this is no script. There's no script to this. There's nothing written down. This is just full blast, straight from the hip, just straight out my thoughts, talking about Bray, talking about Windham. Even though I didn't know him personally and I never got the honor and pleasure to meet him personally and have a talk with him like others may have, even despite that, I still feel like I knew Bray Wyatt. I knew Windham because that's how of a just powerful force he was. And it just, every time I felt captivated and I was just entranced watching his work. And then coming to know him as such the joyful, loving family man and just all around human with a heart of gold that we've seen from so many pictures, heard from stories and from his friends, his family. So I just wanted to take this time to just talk about my favorite Bray Wyatt moments because that's what I feel like I want to do, and I think it would just be really nice to talk about all the great things he's left me with and he's left the entire world with. At the end of the day, I'm just one of his millions of fans, but I loved that man's work. I loved him as a person, Windham Rotunda, Bray Wyatt, so I want to make this video to just talk and relish in all the amazing things you left behind in your legacy. Gone way too soon, and we love you and we miss you. But yeah, this is no hyperbole. I literally grew up watching Bray Wyatt. I remember when he made his debut. I remember seeing the vignettes of the cult leader Bray that we first got introduced to, the cult leader from the bayou, from the swamp. Follow the buzzards, all that. And I remember seeing those vignettes as a kid. Keep in mind, I was probably I think I was 10 or 11 at the time. So even as he got onto the main roster from NXT, and he was and every promo he did, as a kid I probably didn't understand half of it. But that didn't matter because it was just his delivery, his talent, his promos. It just drew you in, and it just glued your eyes to the screen. You were just entranced. You were literally hypnotized by his words. because that's how just drawing of a person he was. Again, sorry if I'm short for better words. But yeah, the vignettes when he first debuted as cult leader Bray back in, what was that, 2012? Somewhere around there. And just, there are so many moments that he made that I'll just always remember, and I got so hyped watching. The first thing that comes to mind when I think about Bray is, especially cult leader Bray, is that amazing match he had with Daniel Bryan at the 2014 Royal Rumble. God, that match was so cool. And that's the thing about Daniel Bryan too. What an incredibly talented man. He can just bring out the best out of anybody, and he brought the best out of Bray Wyatt, and he gave Bray a platform to show, I'm not just all smoke and mirrors. I'm not just spouting out random words to just fool you guys. I'm going to show you how good I really am. And he did in that match. He showed you how talented he was. So many good beats in that match. Of course, the most memorable thing from that match was that wicked Sister Abigail that he gave to Daniel Bryan, like on the side of, outside the ring, right onto the barricade. And I remember seeing that. I'm like, oh my God, that was so brutal. And speaking of brutal, Sister Abigail is by far probably one of, if not the best Sister Abigails he delivered, his finishing move. That Sister Abigail in that tag match against, when he hit it on Rey Mysterio, Jesus, he spun out Rey Mysterio like a tornado, man. That was wicked move. But yeah, that's one of the many matches I think of when I think of Bray Wyatt. That rivalry with Bryan, so many great moments. Of course, when Daniel Bryan was abducted and brainwashed into the Wyatt family, but in that cage match, he broke free of Bray's control, and God, I can still remember the pop from the crowd. Those yes chants, clear as day. Bray trying to keep Bryan under his control, but Bryan fighting out and fighting off the entire family while doing the yes chant on top of the cage. So cool. And of course, probably one of, if not his most favorite rivalries. Another thing I remember about cult leader Bray, his rivalry with John Cena. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of things, and this sadly was a thing a lot that happened in Bray's career, that they should have let Bray have. There are many moments where they mishandled Bray's booking and Bray's character, where it got me pretty upset as a Bray Wyatt fan. I know it got a lot of people upset, but regardless of that, you can say whatever you can about his booking, how his ideas panned out, but you cannot deny that the man was so enigmatic, and he was just a moment maker, and he was just incredibly talented. So yeah, that John Cena rivalry, God, the lead up to that Mania. I remember that Mania, WrestleMania 30, freaking the entire crowd chanting, he's got the whole world in his hands. Just so awesome. He really should have won that match, but that's not here nor there. But yeah, that's a great memory I have of Bray Wyatt. And of course, so many moments came after that, like in 2015, 2016, like with the whole addition to the Wyatt family coming back with Braun added to the mix. Remember that era of the Wyatt family? Of course, one moment I remember from that point in time in Bray's career was that amazing shot and choreography that they did. It was Roman and Bray versus Alberto Del Rio and Sheamus in a tag match. And Bray hit Alberto with the Sister Abigail and was going for the pin. And just that iconic moment of just Bray, as he's pinning Del Rio, just points his hand like a gun, shoots Sheamus as Sheamus is about to stop him, and boom, Roman spears him and wins the match. That was so well done. And I just clearly envisioned that in my head. Such an awesome moment. Of course, when Matt Hardy was still with WWE before he went to AEW. Speaking of AEW, so excited for All In. So that'll be a good thing to get my spirits up after the very sad week. But Yeah, the whole Deleters of Worlds, Bray's whole rivalry with Matt Hardy. And that was crazy. But that's what you get when you pair minds like Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt together. They come up with madness. That whole freaking deletion match, and then, Bray getting thrown into the River of Reincarnation. Then he comes back at Mania to help out Hardy in the Andre Memorial Battle Royal and helps him win it, and then became the Deleters of Worlds. Him and Matt Hardy as a tag team. Them winning the tag team championships. I remember I was actually really happy for that. Oh my God, I forgot to mention, speaking of tag team championships, that one reign beforehand when Randy Orton was in the Wyatt family, it was like the infestation of the Wyatt family. God, I really did skip a lot in 2017. How could I forget one of his most iconic moments ever? God, oh my God, this chamber was so good. The Elimination Chamber match where I thought that it was finally Bray's time. But in retrospect, it really just was so they could put the title on Bray so Randy could beat him for it at Mania, which sucks, and he so deserved better. But anyway, oh my God, that chamber match with, I'm trying to remember the full off the top of the head. I think it was Dean Ambrose, Baron Corbin, The Miz, AJ Styles, John Cena, and Bray. That chamber match, I remember that moment where John got hit with the Sister Abigail and Bray pinned him. I'm like, oh my God, they're actually doing it. They're actually doing it, aren't they? And then when he countered AJ's phenomenal forearm into that Sister Abigail and he pinned him, I'm like, holy crap, they're finally doing it. They finally put the championship on Bray. They're gonna let him run with they're gonna give him the ball to run with, and just freaking and it'll go to the moon. And I was so happy at the time because God, what a moment! That was really the era of Wyatt. God, what a moment for Windham. Just sucks that it didn't last long, but it doesn't matter. That moment where he won it, and then that SmackDown right after, that whole promo. I got the whole damn world now in my hands. As he holds the championship. So awesome. The crowd chanting, you deserved it, because he did. God, that such a great moment. Again, this is like how great of a person and how great of a performer he was. There's so many moments that I'm so scatterbrained that I'm trying to like bounce off, like, oh, what do I remember? Oh, there's this moment with Matt Hardy, Deleters Worlds. Oh, then there's, of course, his introduction. Then there's the chamber. So there's so many moments. And then we get to, Bray took a leave. They very much creative things didn't really pan out well. He was feeling drained. He left. But that was the thing about Bray as well. No matter when it was, whenever he left, everyone was just thinking, even those people that were like, oh, Bray's getting, this is spooky, wacky nonsense, I'm getting tired of this. I guarantee you those same people, along with everyone else, like the true Bray Wyatt fans, were thinking, oh, God, when's Bray coming back? Oh, we really miss Bray. What's Bray going to come with next? And I remember thinking that, like in 2018, 2019, and then we got it. And this, as much as they're so close together in my head and in my heart, but if I had to think about the most awesome and my fan favorite moment of Bray's career, the Firefly Funhouse era. Oh my God. Those vignettes, and then we get the debut, the reveal of Firefly Funhouse. I remember seeing that. I'm like, what is happening in here? He's doing this Pee Wee Herman shtick. He's like running this cartoon child funhouse, and it's like, what is happening? But then you immediately get the freaking, of course, Bray, the amazing storyteller he was. You get to see the characters, the puppets of the funhouse. Ramblin' Rabbit representing his first gimmick, the cult leader Bray with his ramblings. Sister Abigail as Abby the Witch, and then Mercy the Buzzard. Then we got introduced later to Huskus the Pig Boy, harking back to his days of Husky Harris. And that was just another thing about Bray, is that his lore, and the lore that he crafted for himself, his narrative and his talent for storytelling, was one of a kind and will never be replicated. But yeah, I remember the reveal of the Firefly Funhouse. He took out a chainsaw, tore down the old version of Bray, and it's just like, oh my god, this might be it. This is crazy. This is so crazy that this might finally be the thing. If WWE doesn't mess it up, this might be the thing that finally gets Bray to the top of the mountain like he fucking deserves. Excuse me. But, yeah, man. The Firelight Funhouse era. And then we got the debut. One of, if not, I'm, at least I feel like, confident to say, my favorite character wrestler / my favorite wrestling gimmick ever. The Fiend. Oh, my God. That reveal of that episode where Bray's like, I got a secret. You want to see the darkness that's in this noggin? And it was just, and then the reveal, you got to see all the puppets are terrified because it's like, oh God, it's the Fiend. And we're like, okay, what does he look like? Then we get that reveal, that whole creepy transition. Then we get the twinkle, twinkle, little star. And then we see him, just this like crazy psycho murder clown. And he just stares dead into the camera and goes with the famous catchphrase at that time, yowie wowie. And I'm just like, oh my God, that is genuinely fucking terrifying, but I love it. And it's just like, that gimmick was so cool. And the reason why I found it so cool is because it came from a real place. Like, say what you can, like, about the spooky nonsense, or if you got tired of that aspect of Bray Wyatt, but the Fiend was such a cool character, and one of, if not the best, my favorite character / gimmick of all time, and it was because it came from a true place of hurt. All of Bray's prior experiences with the company, with WWE, his life, like with his previous works as cult leader Bray, harken back all the way to Husky Harris, his initial gimmick in NXT, and just all of those elements came together and just made that dark, twisted, just magnificent creature that was the Fiend. And then you just got to see the Fiend go on a rampage, attacking legend after legend, took out, and then that rivalry with Finn Balor when he first showed up, and Sister Abigail to Finn Balor, I'm like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing we've ever seen. And then we got to SummerSlam. That SummerSlam match, that might be my most fond memory of Bray. I think that is my most favorite memory of Bray / Windham's career, was the debut of the Fiend in that match with Finn Balor at SummerSlam. Because I will always remember, I will remember that entrance forever because it was so impactful. The lights go out, let me in, the words showing up on the screen, the blackout that we got used to of the Fiend. And then it started off, the music is just like, oh, this is eerie. Then you see the severed head lantern of Bray Wyatt, and it's just like, oh my God, is that his severed head as a lantern? And then the music hit. The hurt, heel, and then you hear the catching flies, and you're just like, oh my God, it's a dark remix of his old theme as cult leader Bray. And he just came down, just the eerie walk of Bray, of the Fiend, and then you just got to see the Fiend in full glory, in full view, the strobe lights happening, then the lights came up, and then he was just sitting there in the corner, and it's just like, oh my God. That was one of the coolest, if not the coolest entrance I have ever seen in professional wrestling. And then it was just that 5-minute, something around there, just the beat down of Finn Balor. He just literally tried to murder Finn Balor, the Fiend. Friggin' just, it was so animalistic, so primal, so angry, every move he did. And that's how great Windham's character work was, because that was the whole point of the Fiend. It was a manifestation of all of his anger, his hate, all of his failures within his career, losing to Cena, freaking any other creative misstep that happened, and that's what the Fiend was made of. So just seeing him be so animalistic, so hurtful, was just like, yes, this is such good character work, and this gimmick, The Fiend, is so amazing. And there's so many moments in that match I remember. Of course, the infamous neck snap of Finn Balor. It's just like, oh my god. Like, for anyone else, that would be like, oh, okay, that's kind of corny. But for The Fiend, it's just like, oh my god, okay, that actually kind of works. Because I will very much believe that The Fiend is someone who would try and kill somebody. Because that's what The Fiend was. He was just a monster. So yeah, moments like that, slinging, clubbing on Finn Balor, throwing him down. Then he got, of course, Finn got to get a little payback, start to mount a little offense, and then he tried to go for the coup de grace, caught in the mandible claw, and he's out. He just passes out after struggling, and that's how The Fiend won. And it was just that, and that moment of time, that entrance, and that match was amazing, and what a moment. And that is probably my favorite Bray Wyatt moment ever. Doesn't matter what they did after. Like, and again, this was such a creative misstep. I blame WWE for this because they had gold and then they turned it to dust. That whole match that infamous Hell in a Cell match of 2019 between The Fiend and Seth Rollins. Again, that was neither of their call. Don't blame either of them for that. That was just bad booking, terrible booking. Speaking of terrible booking, him losing to Goldberg at Saudi Arabia. God, that was stupid. The Fiend should not have been losing to a 59, 60-year-old Goldberg. Like, that is insane. Shouldn't have happened, but whatever. Neither here nor there. Again, you can say whatever you can about the booking decisions and how the characters panned out, but it was just the moments and the legacy that Windham left behind of his creative genius and all of his lore, harking back and connecting the dots with everything was just so impressive. And then we got his magnum opus of that. Windham, Bray's magnus opus. Sorry, God, I can't speak. His magnum opus of his creative genius and his ideas. During a time where everything was so dark and so grim, when the world basically stopped moving, of course, the lockdown with COVID. And then we got that match at Mania between him and John Cena, harking back to one of Bray's, if not Bray's, greatest rivalry ever with him and Cena. And then we got the Firefly Funhouse match, which was literally a match designed for pro wrestling fans, for people that really love the wrestling business and watch so many things, the WCW elements, any other promotion, and just all the story elements and the lore that came in that match. That match was so different. And this is one of the reasons why that match, probably one of, if not the biggest reason, why Bray Wyatt was revolutionary to the pro wrestling business, is because he changed how you conceive pro wrestling. Is that he used pro wrestling as a platform to tell such an interesting, and just, again, interesting is such a basic word, but I'm struggling to think of any other word, but basically, you know what I mean. It was just such an interesting match. All the story elements. We got Cena in the Funhouse going back to his old gimmicks. Bray talking about Cena's past and all of his misfortunes. All the puppets. Just that match was so bizarre in the best way possible, because that was just it was a gold mine for wrestling fans to pick apart. Oh, this is the WCW lore with Bray as Bischoff and Cena as Hogan. If Cena should have gone heel, like, and all those comments like, oh, when is Cena gonna go heel? He should go heel. And it's just like all those elements combined into that narrative that Bray crafted. And I remember the ending of that match using Cena's own words against him, because Cena may have thought it applied to Bray, but what goes around comes around, and it applied the same way to him. I think the line was basically like, at Mania, I'm going to destroy the most overhyped, overvalued, overprivileged WWE superstar in existence. And that was playing as The Fiend was holding Cena, and boom, Sister Abigail. And he won the match. And basically deleted Cena from history. And it was just like, oh my God. That was so crazy and bizarre. But what a revolutionary idea. And what a creative match. Like, and that's a whole other thing. I don't even know whether to call it a match. Like, it was, but it also wasn't. That was a movie. That was a movie in a wrestling match. And for that, I'm almost inclined, like some others have said, it might be my favorite Mania match ever, but I don't know if you could call it a match. Either way, easily one of the most iconic things to happen at a Mania, in my opinion. And then, of course, again, bad booking came up again, losing to Orton at Mania. But even before then, that, at least for a little bit, I enjoyed the pairing of Alexa Bliss and The Fiend and Bray, because then it was literally wrestling's Joker and Harley. It was wrestling's Joker and Harley Quinn. And I was so on board until, things, again, creative, just went a little awry. So then we got that Mania match, and then, of course, around that time, God rest his soul, Brodie Lee passed away. And that was reported so much, and it was also reported how Bray became depressed, and understandably so, because they were brothers. And for him to lose Brodie like that, Bray went into a depression, and then he got fired amongst COVID. So crummy. And it was just like, and I remember seeing that. I'm like, no, that can't be right. They didn't, no. They didn't let go Bray Wyatt. Their top merch seller with how much money he's made, no, they didn't let him go. So I was in denial. And then, like, seeing it, it's just like, oh my God, they actually let him go. Are they insane? But, yeah, like, that whole thing. So then we got, WWE without Bray for a while. But even then, people were always still coming back. Whether it be people looking for him to return, for his return at WWE. Or hell, there were, like, a bunch of reports saying, like, oh, what if he goes to AEW and joins the Dark Order? And, other things like that. Either way, everyone was talking about Bray still. Everyone was curious, and again, that just shows how much of an impact he left and how great of a talent he was. It was that everyone was literally eating out of the palm of his hand, wondering, oh, what are you going to do next? Where are you going next? What's going to happen next? Where are you, Bray Wyatt? We miss you, Bray Wyatt. Please come back. And then we got it. After 2 years, about two years, maybe a little plus, one of the greatest returns in pro wrestling history, because by God, you go back and hear that reaction, one of the most electric and powerful fan reactions to a return ever in all of pro wrestling. His return in Philadelphia at Extreme Rules was so crazy, because like the Firefly Funhouse match at Mania, it was a movie. His return was a movie, because the lights went out, then you heard the ominous music. He's got the whole world in his hands. And it's just like, oh my God, he's back. He's back. And then you saw all the Firefly Funhouse characters come to life again. You got to see, and they were frankly terrifying, especially Rambling Rabbit. Jesus. We got Rambling Rabbit, Huskus the Pig Boy, Abby the Witch, Mercy the Buzzard. Got to see the Fiends in the crowd, the burnt Fiend mask, and it's just like, oh my God, this is a movie. This is so crazy. Then you got to see the decrepit and the abandoned funhouse, the TV staticking, like just a bunch of static, and then coming on with that the Uncle Howdy-ish character at the time. Who killed the world? You did. And it just got, oh my God, just remembering that moment is just so cool to me. And then, of course, it happened. There was the door. The light shined through the door. And I'm pretty sure, pretty much a lot of people took notice of this. But another thing I loved about that is that I think, along with many others, was that was a reference and a shout-out and a tribute to Brodie Lee. Because that's how Brodie Lee debuted in AEW. He was in that long hallway with the light, and that's when he announced himself as the Exalted One and the leader of the Dark Order. But yeah, the door busts open, the light shines through, and then you get Bray coming out with the lantern. Him wearing that Uncle Howdy mask. And when he took off that mask, the electric and just thunderous roar of love and cheers from the crowd for seeing Bray's face. God, that was such a great ending to a pay-per-view. And then, of course, we got the start of his run. God, that SmackDown where he had like that work shoot promo at the same time. How he was talking about, oh, you fans wouldn't leave me alone. You saved my life. And it's just like, oh my God. It made my heart like swell with joy, because it's just like, oh my God, he's back. And it felt like he was talking to us. He really was talking to us. But then we still got the Uncle Howdy figure looming over, foreshadowing all dark things are still to come with Bray. And it was so exciting. Then we got that rivalry with LA Knight. And God, speaking of talent, LA Knight, yeah, just that rivalry, I enjoyed it. Of course, the match itself, the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match, that I don't blame Bray for, or anyone for. That was just really shitty product integration, advertisement integration, because even if it turned out bad, like, that's just, like, that, and that's a whole other discussion, how they should do advertisement integration. They shouldn't do it with the match, because then it takes away from the match. But anyway, even despite that and how that match panned out, that's the whole thing with Bray. And he said it in the press conference pretty much. And it's the idea of, if you're not trying new things and if you're not doing something different to stand out, then what are you doing here? And that was Bray. He was never afraid. He always let his creativity flow and his ideas rush out. Probably too much for a wrestling company to handle. Probably more suited for Hollywood. But either way, just he had so many ideas and he was never afraid to try any of them. And that's why he always had my respect, because that's why he was an inspiration, is that he never took a back seat and never let his creativity and his ideas and his passions for pro wrestling and what he envisioned be restricted by anybody or any other force. He just went with it, and he always tried new things. And then, of course, we were supposed to get him and Bobby Lashley at Mania, but then, of course, he went out with a injury at the time, as it was being reported, but then it turned into an illness, and now, even though we don't know the full details now, we kind of pretty much know it was COVID, which exacerbated a heart issue, and then Bray Windham unfortunately died to a heart attack. So, in short, this is already getting on. This is a pretty long rant and discussion, but I just really wanted to do this because Bray Wyatt, Windham Rotunda, was an idol to me. He was iconic. I grew up watching his career and experiencing his career and all of his transformations and his evolution of his character. And then, of course, you just got to see the multiple stories and the pictures of him being a lovely family man to his wife, to his fiance, JoJo, to his kids, 4 kids. God, that's so tragic. 4 kids and a young fiance with 4 children without a father. That's awful. So, again, nothing but love and good prayers for the Rotunda family, for JoJo and Bray's kids, Wyndham's kids. But yeah, I just wanted to take this time to talk about Bray, talk about Windham, because that's what he deserves. He will never be forgotten. Bray, we love you. We'll miss you. Your fireflies will buzz on all the way throughout the night, all over the world, my man. You'll never be forgotten. While you're up there, give a hug to Brodie for us, to John Huber. Give him a hug for us. And have fun wrestling in that golden ring up above in the golden skies, watching down over us. But yeah, we love you, Bray. We love you. We miss you. Rest easy, Windham. And The world isn't going to be the same without you. Thank you for listening to me talk about Bray. For those who know of Windham, who know of Bray, who are also fans of pro wrestling, feel free to talk about your favorite moments and like any great memories you have, because that's what we need to do, is relish that man's legacy and his amazing moments that he left behind for us, because God knows he left so many. But yeah, that's about it. And this is CN Caden signing off. We love you, Bray. Rest easy, Windham. And goodbye.